When we're struggling with an injury, it can be easy to lose ourselves in our phone, the internet, social media, and video games. And because relying on tech can be a really difficult habit to break, we decided to sit down with Dr. Thekla Ross to learn how digital habits affect our healing, how to set healthier boundaries with our technology, and some really practical tools to support your mental health, well-being, and your recovery. Listen in. Dr. Thekla Ross is the chair of the Digital Harm Reduction Committee at the American Psychological Association and co-author of It Won't Love You Back: Reclaiming Connection with Ourselves, Each Other, and the Planet in a Tech-Addicted World. As a clinical psychologist at the intersection of technology, addiction, and well-being, she previously led addiction medicine initiatives at one of the nation's largest health maintenance organizations, and now advises health systems and tech companies on responsible innovation and sustainable behavior change. She also teaches self-compassion and sustainable leadership to high performers and reveals how digital fragmentation quietly undermines focus, recovery, and confidence. Drawing on decades of healing the healer work, Dr. Ross helps athletes see digital harm as a hidden load on the nervous system and coaches them on how to use self-compassion and digital boundaries as core performance skills, so athletes can return from injury, close the gap between their current and future selves, and keep giving at a high level without burning out. Okay, thank you, Tekla, so much for joining us. We're very excited for this conversation about the harm that this digital era brings us, especially for these injured athletes. So we would love to hear from you. Your work surrounds around digital harm reduction. What does that mean? And why is this important, especially when you're thinking about injured athletes?
Love it. Great question. Thank you, Ashley. And thank you, Heidi, for having me. So excited to be here. And to all the athletes listening, thank you for being you, because I love watching and cheering on incredible athletes. So, and that's both in the arena and on the sidelines. So I'm like you both in the injured category as well. Harm reduction simply is about meeting people where they are. Super passionate about this topic, and it's a really great framing to apply to our digital lives, because unlike alcohol or fentanyl, we can't eliminate it from our lives altogether. It's like food. We're going to live with tech. It's going to be a part of our lives forever. But how do we live with it in a way that's in alignment with our values, in a way that's serving our well-being, in a way that's helping us connect with ourselves and each other and the planet? And so it's really about kind of stepping back and creating some awareness, which I know, Ashley, you and I love in our self-compassion frame.
We're curious, with injured athletes, what do you think are some of the reasons that an athlete might find themselves going to their phone or scrolling on social media or escaping into video games during their recovery?
Well, to the injured athletes listening and their family members and non-injured athletes, we all go to social media, scrolling, gaming, and stuff when we don't want to feel the feelings that we're feeling in this moment. So we're wanting to resist or avoid whatever discomfort we're feeling in this moment. Or now we've gotten so accustomed to it that we're just avoiding boredom, right? It's just it's automatic. I want to mention that there's something called phantom phone syndrome that about 80% of us have, which is that we reach for our phones, our watches, our wearables, even when they're not on our bodies, because we feel the twitch, we think they're there. So it's become really habitual in our everyday lives. But for injured athletes in particular, you are somebody who is dedicated to your sport. You're up and moving all the time. You've got your practice routine and your competition routine, and then suddenly that all stops. You're in pain. You're not with your teammates necessarily on a regular basis or your family members. You're not even getting up and going to the third spaces, the coffee shop, or, meeting up with friends in those spaces. And so you're really removed and isolated from your everyday routines. And so what is a natural place that you're going to reach to? It's your phone, it's gaming, it's technology. And so let me just normalize and say it's completely normal. We see it a lot, and we see it often when people are isolating because of mental health challenges. We see it when people are isolating because of other chronic medical illnesses. We see it when people are isolating because of bullying. We see it when people lose their job, anything that disconnects someone from their usual and regular life and routine, right? It's just disconnecting us from our health. So I want to name that. I'll give an example. I was reading Jonathan Haidt and Catherine Price's new book, The Amazing Generation, with my 10-year-old, who is also an athlete. She's a swimmer and a ski racer and a tennis player. and we were talking about the impact of the digital life on our physical bodies. And I said, "Do you know who the biggest competitor is to Netflix?" And she said, "TikTok." And I said, "No, try again." She was like, "Snapchat." I said, "No, try again." I said, "It's sleep. It's sleep. It's that these tech companies are now, their biggest competitors are the things that keep us alive, healthy, and well, which is less time URL and more time IRL. It's sleeping, it's eating without them, it's really doing anything without them because they thrive and they make money on occupying our attention and our attachment now with AI. So
Why do you think it matters so much to be cognizant and mindful about how much time we're spending on our phones, especially when something disruptive or traumatic happens, like an injury?
yeah, great question. So we can't rely on our phones anymore for accurate or reliable data or information. So if I were an injured athlete, and I know you both work with really incredible athletes, sometimes I could imagine going to my phone for a second opinion or to connect with other folks who've experienced the same injury as me. But we can't necessarily go to social media or to AI and get that reliable information anymore. There's slop, there's influencers who are being paid to sell something. There's a lot of bullying and hate. And so when you're going to your phone to maybe seek reassurance, to seek validation, to seek answers, you're actually getting the opposite. Social media itself, the scaffolding of it, the structure of it is based on social comparison. So you're actually going to a place to get support, to connect, and you're actually feeling in the end more isolated by comparing yourself and your physical condition to others who may be different, who don't look like you, who may be recovering at a different pace than you, who may have had a different type of injury than you. There are beautiful forums and spaces and places for people to connect online who've experienced similar chronic health conditions, similar traumatic injuries, but it really takes a curated group of folks to work together to really say, okay, this is a space and this is a place that's healthy, and this is a space and this is a place that's not. So it really takes a team. I want to emphasize that. I want to emphasize that we often go to social media and the internet when we want answers, but we can't even have the answers. You know, we want the timeline of like when my injury will get better, when I can get back on my feet, when I can run. And this is a moment in injury where a huge part of acceptance comes in around we don't necessarily know and we can't have all the answers we want. And the internet and social media think that they can provide us with that, but really that they can sometimes just exacerbate it. And in the world of compassion, Ashley, I know you and I know this, but we say pain times resistance equals suffering. We can't control the pain. The pain is the injury. It happened. We can't take that away, but we can control the resistance to the pain in terms of how much we suffer. And a lot of that is around the behaviors we choose, especially around our technology. And the doom scrolling and the doom searching, we all know, all of us on this call know, because we've all done it. It exacerbates our anxiety. It makes us feel worse than we did before we got on it. I have yet to meet somebody truly who says, you know what? I felt significantly better in my well-being, sustained attention, improved mental health after being on social media. So if you're one of those people, I look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah.
You mentioned something earlier about forums, and it's rare to find a really good forum, and many of my athletes have complex, chronic, unique injuries, and they will bury themselves for hours a day in forums trying to find the right doctors, which is admirable. Reading other people's stories, and especially in the case of my diagnosis, which is arthrofibrosis, if you look on forums, you're going to find nothing but horror stories. And yet people will keep looking at the forums, and then the stories of other people that are hopeless, they embody that story for themselves and say, well, my situation is also helpless. And I tell my athletes, stay out of forums. If you want information from forums, pick somebody on your care team that you trust, designate them as your forum searcher to find doctors, find PTs, find other clinicians that can help you, but they will help you screen out all of the noise that you don't need to hear right now, all the bad stories, etc. And some people have that other person on their team that they can designate as their forum scroller, medical researcher, whatever. But for those who don't, how do you suggest that injured athletes establish boundaries around forum searching and doom scrolling? And why
Yeah.
do they need those boundaries?
Yes, boundaries are huge. Boundaries are our protective mechanism, right? They keep us safe when we're in vulnerable situations. And oftentimes, what you mentioned, Heidi, when you were describing this, like going to forums and reading these horrible horror stories, one, oftentimes the folks who've been successful, they're not URL, they're IRL. They're living their real life because they've recovered and they've moved on, right? So their stories aren't there. And for the folks who are sort of sifting through this forum, my first question for you is, are you fully resourced right now? Like, have you gotten a full night's rest? You've eaten well, you've iced, you've heated, like you are fully resourced. You're at 100% on your battery of your physical iPhone. You've got support around you. Like if you're at that space and that place, that might be a good time to say, okay, I can start piecemealing together where's the right place I need to be that's credible, that's evidence-based, that's reliable. I highly recommend Susanna Fox's book, Rebel Health. It has a lot of great tips and tricks around forums and safe places to be when you have rare and chronic conditions. Heidi, I loved, you said so I guess if you don't have a team, I'm going to recommend like only doing it when you're at your most resource place. Do not do it if your battery is anywhere below 90%, because then you're going to get stuck and get caught in spaces and places that aren't healthy. So that's number one for folks who don't have a team. For folks who do have a team, and your team can be anyone. Your team could be your neighbor, your friend down the street, your PT, your primary care physician, a nurse on your team. It could be a whole host. It could be a family member. There could be a whole host of people who help you sift through the forum so you don't have to do it. I highly recommend that they're well resourced.
That's really great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's great advice. And I think, when we're talking about technology, you're mentioning these two different spaces. There's one of trying to find information, which is probably seeking comfort, reassurance, you mentioned, maybe encouragement. And there requires a lot of intentionality with that if we want to do it well. And then there's the other side of when we're using technology, in injury, which is the distraction, coping mechanism. I'm feeling isolated from my team, but I kind of want to stay updated. So there's like these kind of different access points of like looking for reassurance and comfort, but it is all sort of seeking connection. And so you mentioned some kind of boundaries and things with the forum searches. I'm curious, just like what's your advice for people? I think everyone knows the downsides of the doom scrolling on social media or the comparison. Like they feel it. We don't need to tell them that the research supports that. They feel
Yeah.
that decline in well-being, but I'm curious, just like what tips do you have as they're navigating some of those, the coping mechanisms of just like attaching to things?
A lot of times we reach for social media when we want to connect. And I often say, want to connect with who? And often that is a particular person or a group of people. And we are completely out of the habit of picking up the phone and calling those people or writing a letter and having the physicality of being intentional about the words we want to use and the way we want to express our feelings to those people. So I often tell folks that before you get on social media, I want you to think through 3 different methods of communicating with somebody before social, because a DM is going to come and go in a flash. That is not a long-lasting dopamine hit. That's a short hit that is going to come and go quickly. I'm a letter writer. I hold the letters in my hand, and that arc of that dopamine hit is weeks long. Like the timeline of that is week long. Not only does it benefit me, the writer who's writing the letter, but it benefits the receiver who's getting the letter. I always send letters to my friends who are recovering. I have a friend right now who's recovering from a ski injury. Can't say text message, short hit, letter, much longer hit. Picking up the phone and calling, I'm a voice memo gal. So if I don't have time to write the letter, if I can't make the phone call right then and there, I'm going to send a voice memo so they can hear the texture and the tone of my voice, and they can hear my voice change, and that I pause, because it's hard, and it's hard to sit with somebody who's injuring and recovering. So I say try 3 times of reaching out and connecting in a way that isn't on social media, because you're not going to get that long lasting need when you reach for social to connect. I love telling teams, athletic teams, like, create a buddy system when somebody's injured. Like, so-and-so is going to check in on them on Mondays. So-and-so is going to check in on them Tuesdays. So-and-so is going to check in on Wednesdays. Like, don't make social media the default. Redesign the team space and the place and the environment to reach out to that person in a way that's going to nourish them. Not that they have to go to Snapchat to be able to communicate with their team members. So let's just redesign the space to nourish them. And then the last one is, I think we underestimate how often we need to reconnect with ourselves. And Ashley, you and I are big self-compassion advocates, but I can say from my own, I'm an athlete who does athletics primarily for my own mental health. It's for my mental health. And so when I'm injured, it really hits my mental health hard. And so the reminder for me is, like, how do I check in with myself, and how do I nourish myself, and how do I talk to myself so that I can feel strong enough to move through the recovery and the healing process. And that is a lot about self-compassion, and the kind of voice, the inner voice that we use when we speak to ourselves.
And so on that note of self-compassion, which you have alluded to a couple times, injuries for athletes are a huge hit to their identity. A lot of them struggle with, who am I without my sport? There's a lot of fears around that as well. Sometimes, the fear of re-injury can be really high. There's some athletes, depending on their injury, feel like, my body has failed me. Can I trust my body? And so depending on the level of injury, right? There's a huge scope here, but what do you see as the role of self-compassion, just in general, whether it's, in connection to technology or not, but, like, what do you see as the role of self-compassion with athletes who are struggling with these types of issues or challenges?
Such a great question. I actually do find it really connected to technology, because I think technology has gotten us so far away from feeling our feelings. So the first step of self-compassion is mindful awareness, which is naming how you're feeling in this moment, not fixing it, not solving it, not changing it, naming it. So you feel crappy, you feel pain, you feel frustration, you feel fear, you feel sadness, you feel grief about the identity that you were before, and now who are you going to be in the future? You feel fear around, am I ever going to return to the level I was at before? So naming all of those feelings is the very first step. And you don't have to, as I said, you don't have to fix them or solve them. I like to say, this feeling is okay. This feeling is not okay, and no action is needed right now. It is what it is. And then it's about the voice in the head. So I call my inner critic. I teach medical students self-compassion. We all name our inner critics with alliteration. So mine's Tricky Tech. And I like to pay attention to her. She shows up real loud when I'm injured, loud and proud. She's like, let me make sure I catastrophize all the horrible things that are going on in your life. And so I'll just name her, like, oh, there's that Tricky Tech voice. She really doesn't want me to feel good today. And I think, well, what would a good friend say to me in this moment? Or what would my mom say to me in this moment? Or what would my daughter say to me in this moment? And I really try to internalize those voices and put Tricky Tech to the side and say, thank you so much for coming to visit, but I don't need you right now. And then I remember that I'm like one of a million injured people, right? There's people all over the world who are experiencing pain and distress. We call it common humanity. And so that's the piece. And we talked about forums before. That's why people are yearning to feel like not alone in their own experience. But really, it also just takes talking to a loved one. We've all gone through it. And sometimes we may not even know that our neighbor had a knee injury and would really love to share their experience, right? We sometimes fail to ask those questions until we're in the moment itself. And to your piece about the actual physical injury, one of the things I really encourage people to do, especially injured athletes, is to welcome the new component into their body. So I'll give an example. My mom had a knee replacement surgery. And it was very scary and overwhelming. And I said, well, have you been welcoming your new knee into your body? This is very new for your knee. This is like, where am I? Who is this person? Why am I here? I said, talk to your knee, welcome your knee into your body. This is my body. Here are my cells. Here are my fascia. Here are my ligaments. Welcome in. I know this is new for you. It's new for me too. We're going to figure out how to integrate together. Talk to your body. That matters. If I'm sending signals to my body that like, you suck, this is so painful, I can't get over this, it's going to internalize those messages. Our cells take in data. So think about the way that you're talking to your physical body and really try to embody that with self-compassion.
I love that.
Yeah, me too. I love the idea of externalizing a little bit because so often when we have, disruptive, challenging things happen, we internalize everything and we feel like it's my fault and why can't I just get over this? And this is so hard. And there is something really special about externalizing or separating kind of like your mind from your body for a second. Like, they're connected, but just I like that example that you were saying. Yeah, Heidi, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I always talk to my clients about words mattering, and there's a Maya Angelou quote about words that I use all the time. And that words are things, and they get into your wallpaper and your walls and your upholstery and your sofa, and then finally they get into you.
Mm.
And I think all of this, if you back up a few thousand feet, everything that we're talking about is what creates hope for people. It's the intentional practices that create hope. And I always say that hope is not a noun, it's a verb. It's an action, that a series of actions that you have to take. And that's what all of this is helping people create hope.
Yeah. Can I also just add, and I'm holding up my phone to listeners, is like when I'm in my most vulnerable space, um, and really having to rework and lean on my self-compassion practices, um, I know that the phone is probably one of the last places I need to go in that moment, because I need to spend time with myself. I
Mm-hmm.
need to spend time in the quiet. I need to spend time healing. I need to sit and let my body fade to sleep and then come back into presence and then fade to sleep. When we're on our tech and our phones and our YouTube and all of that, our bodies aren't going to be able to do that. They're not going to be able to transition in those ways because they're distracted, right? And a distracted mind is an unhealthy mind. Center for Healthy Minds has incredible research around that.
Yeah, as you're talking, I was thinking there's so many people in this world where when something's taken from us, we have this now empty space and that's scary. And so we want to fill it with something, which is where technology tends to come in, right? There's a lot of fear for some people, I know there are some athletes that I have worked with or people who I've worked with that if you said to them, I want you to just put your phone away and you have to sit with yourself, like that is just, especially if they're in a not good place, it's really scary for them. And so I'm curious if you have any advice for people or encouragement about for those who might be scared to test this out of instead of reaching for the phone, like what do they do instead? And you gave some ideas earlier in terms of connection, but just curious if you have any encouragement for people who might be scared to try
I
being
love
with themselves.
I love it, Ashley, because talking to athletes, they get reps better than anyone. They get practice better than anyone. This is cognitive endurance, relational endurance that they're doing in their recovery. And those take reps, just like all of their reps for their training. And so I'm doing some reps right now, actually, in my own practice, of sitting doing nothing. I'm not meditating because that's me trying to be productive and doing something else. I'm not on my phone. I'm not writing a list. I'm literally watching the light change on my couch in my living room because I'm building my cognitive endurance of allowing my mind to be creative and to be offline and to metabolize and to integrate. And so to all your athletes who are like, yeah, right, I'm not doing that, it's a rep. You need to do your cognitive reps and your relational reps. What we were talking about before, writing letters, picking up the phone and calling, those are your relational reps. And no, social media DMs are kind of like they're kind of like doing a half squat, they're not a full rep. So you can kind of put those ones aside. Just do a full rep. Those are relational reps. Cognitive reps are really like getting bored, noticing your breath. And I'm going to give three because I know athletes like a easy 1, 2, 3 steps. So if there were three things that you were going to do that disconnected you, reduced harm from your technology, what would they be? I would say remove the phone from the first 30 or screens from the first 30 minutes and the last 30 minutes of the day. First 30, it's going to greatly impact your mood throughout the day because you're going to make a choice of how you wake up and what your mood is and how you reintegrate your body and your nervous system into the day versus the news or social media dictating that for you. I have a rule in my house that I don't pick up my phone before the sun rises. So it's just clear, like if the sun's not up, it's nowhere near me. I mindfully unload the dishwasher every morning. Gotten to a place where I actually like get sad if I haven't loaded the dishwasher the night before because I'm like, bummer, I can't be with my forks and spoons and cups this morning, which is kind of crazy to say out loud. At nighttime, I mean, we all know the research, right? Like, just don't have it by your bed 30 minutes before bed, at least, because you're not going to be able to sleep well and integrate well, blue light, all the things. So if you can have it out of your room and buy an old school alarm clock, great plan. But if it needs to be in your room, just keep it out of reach. Second would be, it's what I call, and it's in our book that's coming out next year, but it's called Release the Grip. So we all grab our phones, we grip them. A lot of people are just gripping them and holding them all day long in their hands. Release the grip on the phone and turn your palm upside down and ask yourself, what do I need in this moment? Not what do I want? You may want to scroll social media. You may want to buy that new thing online, but what do you need right now? Maybe you need a glass of water. Maybe you need a nourishing snack. Maybe you need to call a friend. You may not need, 9 times out of 10, I would say, you don't need what you're grabbing for on your phone. It's just a habitual habit. So release the grip is number 2. So the first one is first 30 and last 30 of the day, remove it. Second is release the grip. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? Not what do I want? And the third is my hardest one. So I'm going to tell people I'm joining you with it, but no screens while you're eating. Nutrition is a huge part of recovery and healing, especially for athletes. And if you're on a screen while you're eating, you're not metabolizing, you're not nourishing the food in the same way. And if you could mindfully, and you could use slow media, and by slow media, I mean like read a magazine, look at a physical newspaper. But really pay attention to the act that you're participating. Like, I'm eating this apple because I need these nutrients for my new knee that's being reintegrated into my body. And if you're a parent, there is no better thing that you can do for your family's mental health and well-being than not have screens at meals. We have to redesign our spaces and our lives to support well-being that isn't tech immediate. So if I'm carrying my phone into every room, then it's going to be the focus. When phones are face down, my phone is face down, I'm pointing to it right now. Even though it is on my desk, my attention is still being cognitively pulled to my phone. It's managing, checking unconsciously things on the phone. There's a ton of research and data on it. So thinking about healing and what does your body need for healing? It needs nutrition, it needs rest, it needs heat, it needs connection, it needs fresh air. It needs very little of the digital technology, maybe a few minutes here or there, or a few check-ins here or there, but it doesn't need the constant incessantness that it plays in our lives. And a lot of that is like setting ourselves up for success. I know athletes do that all the time. You prepare for the race, you're wearing the right clothes, you're eating the right nutrition. So prepare your space for success. Like, how do you want to rearrange your recovery and your healing so that tech isn't the focus? It's rather to augment rather than extract.
When people start to make changes following the 3 steps that you gave or some of your advice that you gave earlier, it's going to feel really uncomfortable. And athletes will often say, oh yeah, I can do something uncomfortable like this for a couple days, but after that I'm out. I want to go back to my old ways. So it can be difficult to make changes like this sustainable. Mm-hmm. So how can people go about removing some of their phone time, scrolling, etc., out of their lives, but make it sustainable?
Well, you're asking the right person because I'm in the business of behavior change and sustainable behavior change. And I would say, one, start really small, baby steps, baby steps. Do not try and like eliminate the phone altogether. We're talking about cutting back 5 minutes here, starting with 25 minutes, before bed or in the morning, right? And then slowly building up. Then creating accountability buddies, like who are you going to do this with? So we talked earlier about your teams and somebody checking in on you on certain days of the week. Maybe there are a lot of people, they don't have to be injured. There are a lot of people who want to reevaluate their relationship with technology. All of us do. We all got introduced in 2007, 2008 to these things in our lives. And none of us said, well, how do we want to live our life and then have it supported by this tech? No, it came in and redesigned our life for us. So there are a lot of people in the world who want to join in on this. So find those people, set accountability dates, check in with each other, just get curious. I say be a reporter to your own life. Like there is no perfection here. There is no right or wrong. It's about testing and trying and being a scientist around its benefits in your life and its detriments in your life, right? So how is it nourishing you and how is it depleting you? And just get really curious about that and then share that with your team members, your friends, your family, I bet all of your care team members would be super curious about how it's adding or depleting your recovery process. So I would say accountability buddies, start small, small behavior change, right? Baby steps. Um, and then I would say brag. I hate to say this, but we're not trained to brag in our lives. A lot of people do it on social media, but I have a girlfriend, actually the co-author of my book, and we brag to each other about our IRL life, like what we're doing in real life, going on a nature walk, singing in the car, all of the things that nourish us, that we don't necessarily give ourselves kudos for because we think it's like not that big of a deal, but it is a big deal. It's a big deal in the age of all this digital overwhelm.
Yeah, I love that. And I think I was thinking, there's the ramifications of if I don't stop, and then there's the benefits. Here's the ways that I want my life to change. And both are really valuable, right? I think sometimes when we talk about technology or social media, it's like, yeah, I know I have to make these changes, and it feels really burdensome. And it's like, it's those negative effects that usually motivate us to start the change. And then this is just my experience. And I'm working with different athletes. It's like once we decide to change, I feel like it is grabbing onto those benefits. It's not like, yes, we want to reduce the negative effects, but it's also, what am I gaining from this? Like I feel more connected. I'm feeling more energized. These are the reasons why I want to do this, not just because someone told me so, or they said it's bad, or you know what I mean? It's like balancing out. Yes, we want to reduce the negative effects and we want to bring up and boost these positive ones, which can create, I think, more lasting change when you have these positive things that we're hoping for and striving for.
Oh, so, so well said. And we talk about this in the rooms of recovery a lot. I come from addiction medicine. Right? You're going to lose the relationship with the substance when you go into recovery. And it's a big loss. That substance was there for you in a time of trauma and pain and discomfort. But what you're going to gain from life in recovery and friendships and connection and clarity of mind and thought and activities you don't usually get to do because you're spending all this time using. It's the same with the phone. Like all these amazing things that you're going to get to do because you have more time to reintegrate into your life or to spend with yourself. Um, I think people will find that they're like yearning for it and pining for it once they start practicing. I've had very few folks tell me, you know what, like I started living more IRL in real life and I'm just gonna go back to more time on my phone. It's not something I hear. So
Yeah, I did for a little while, about a year, 2 years, I was doing some research for a tech company, a safe tech company. And so we did in different schools where they, went off their phones or they had not a smartphone or whatever. They made these different changes. And the benefits were amazing, right? They felt way more socially connected. In the high schools that we were at, the lunchroom was really loud. Like campus in general got louder because they were talking to each other, like they loved it and they felt more empowered and intentional. And then, over time, we did a follow-up and it was like they got sucked back in,
Oh,
just
100%.
at least to some extent. They usually kept at least something. But again, it's just like the benefits are there right in front of you and you feel them and experience them. And I feel like that empowerment and ownership and intentionality, and you get to control your life more than having this device or devices control you.
100%. I have to share a study that recently came out
Please.
it so 2 weeks off not having Wi-Fi on the smartphone, so removing wireless internet from the smartphone. 90% of the participants improved on sustained attention, mental health, and overall well-being. 90% on all three areas. And those who improved on sustained attention had what looked like improved 10 years of age-related deficits, meaning like they looked 10 years younger with 2 weeks of not having mobile internet on their phone. So the step is small, but the benefit is enormous.
I got one more question for you, and then Heidi, you can ask whatever last questions you've got. I just get so excited. I want to know more. I want to know too, of like, what are the benefits of having a phone and social media and stuff? Like, how can people, so again, it's not just like, I need to be restrictive, I need to limit it, because I know some people in some of these research studies and in practice where they're like, I'm looking up quotes and inspiration. But again, it's got to be filtered because you're going to get all the crap that comes with your search, right? Or like, I'm thinking of messages in the morning. Like I know some people who they have a partner and they're saying good morning and good night. And so they're starting their day not with social media or news, but they're starting it with connection with someone who might not be there. So like,
Mm.
can you give some ideas of ways that people can be really productively using their phones in a way that is filling them up instead of like, this is a bad thing that I have to get rid of?
100%. Thank you so much for asking that, Ashley, because I'm not anti-tech. Like I use AI, I use technology. I'm a huge social health person, so I use it to like communicate and coordinate and collaborate. Um, I think you make a really, really good point, and I want to mention a couple of things. One, it's not all bad, it's about intention. So what are you going to your phone to use it for? So are you intending to find that quote that you're going to, use and share just like Heidi did with us earlier, that beautiful Maya Angelou quote? Like, are you going to share it with your athletes and your team members? Like, that's a great intention to go to Instagram and find a quote, right? So it's around the intention or around the ethics of using AI in this example. I also want to say for folks with ongoing disabilities, like technology has made incredible strides to help people connect and communicate in the ways that they need. Interpreters for the deaf community, allowing us to rely on other forms of our senses. Like there has been incredible advancements in technology that we have to be incredibly grateful for and appreciative of. So again, this is not about abstinence. This is not about saying no to technology. It's really about values alignment. How do I want to be using this tool? How long do I want to be engaged with the tool, right? Even just setting a timer, right? I'm off social media, but I have to use LinkedIn for my work and my job. And so often I'll just say, okay, go on for 15 minutes, do what you need to do. And that includes scrolling. I'm scrolling and finding new information and new studies and new information. But after about 15 minutes, I have to stop and pause. Is this serving me? Am I still achieving my primary goal that I went with while being on the platform? And sometimes it's yes, and I stay on, and sometimes it's no. So it's really about checking in. It's about intention.
Love it. Thank you. Heidi, your final questions?
Yeah. For those people who have a streak and they're doing really well using their phones intentionally and mindfully, and then they slip up, have a few bad days, and then just kind of want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, I give up. I can't do this. What do you say to those people?
Mm. Well, again, addiction is what we call a recurring disease. Like it's a chronic disease where we're constantly going back, and we call it return to use because it's not stigmatizing in that way. There are so many chronic conditions where we return to, having sugar or whatever it may be. And I always tell people that all data is good data. So you went back on for 2 days or 3 days or 2 weeks or what have you, that's data. Just use that data to inform the next time that you're taking a break or the next time that you're reducing. And what did that teach you? Okay, I really loved cutting out the first 30 minutes and the last 30 minutes of the day. I love not having the phone while I was eating. But I noticed that I still love to scroll Instagram. Okay, so how do I create more healthy balance in my life with that? So all data is good data. Use that data to inform the next changes that you make that can be more sustainable. And we always would say in the rooms of recovery, like it's not about that you return to use, it's how quickly you go back to seeking support and guidance from those on your care team and those who are supporting you in your healing journey, right? So it's not about that you actually returned. It's really about how quickly you can get back on your feet and be able to ask for help and support. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And how would you flip the script if somebody is telling themselves, "Oh, I failed"? Because
Mm.
athletes are notoriously hard on themselves.
Oh, they sure are. Ashley's going to appreciate this because I'm going to quote some of her good science that she's put out there in the world, which is um, people who are self-compassionate, including athletes, especially in Ashley's research, they actually are higher performers because they use their mistakes as information to perform better. So self-compassion really eliminates the shame, but it keeps the accountability. And so when you talk to yourself more kindly, it's not that you're going easy on yourself. It's not that you're saying, oh, you can eat, 2 pints of ice cream and be okay with it. No, it's like, what is the next best choice that I can make for my long-term well-being that keeps me accountable, but doesn't add to my shame or to my guilt, right? And so self-compassion and the practices we've talked about on this episode are going to make you a better athlete. They're going to increase performance. I like to say in the rooms of HR, they're going to increase productivity, right? In no space or place has shame ever been a long-term form of behavior change, good behavior change. It's just the evidence is there. The no pain, no gain mentality we all grew up with, it doesn't work. Like there's no good science to say that shame is a long-term behavior change motivator. So try self-kindness instead. You might be surprised.
I love it. We can't avoid the setback, but we can fail better, right? That's what we got. Tekla, thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
spending this time
much.
with us. I know that the athletes, parents, clinicians listening, this is extremely valuable for all of us and much needed in our society. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk
This is
with us.
going to help so many people. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I love athletes. I love watching and working with athletes. So if any athletes want to do some digital harm reduction work or have me come talk to their teams or clearly you can tell I'm passionate about it. Thanks
Where's
for
the
the
best
opportunity.
place for
You.
people to find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is probably they can direct message me or they can go on my website at teklabr.com. Sign up for the book club. It's if you scroll down, it's a weekly reader, friends. So don't worry, it's tailored to our low attention spans. You can read an entry in less than 5 minutes, and it'll give you quick, easy, practical tips, tools, neuroscience, psychology, and coaching behind why reducing harm around our relationship with tech is great. It's coming out in 2027, but in the meantime, feel free reach out. I do speaking engagements and consulting with companies and organizations, and I teach. So, yeah,
A
reach
little
out
bit
to
of
me on there.
everything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much. Thank you so, so much.